Before a building is constructed, a solid foundation needs to be created. A standard house needs about 3 feet of foundation. Here in Arizona, I was told it only needs 18 inches, while some places need up to 10 feet, depending on the soil. The higher you go, the deeper the foundation. The New World Trade Center has a foundation a little over 100 feet. The hours and time spent on that foundation equals to that of the tower. In fact, foundation at 100 feet takes 70 tons of cement, while the tower at 1,800 feet uses 100 tons. Think about that. 100 feet gets 70 tons. 1,800 feet gets 100,000. In this week's Tao of Joe, I want to explore foundations and give you some tips that I used in my life. This is not an end-all be-all and you must do it this way. This is what just helped me get through my life. So let's get started. Here's part 1 of foundation. It might be easy for me to say, it starts off with setting goals and doing this. It doesn't start off with any of that. Actually, I'm just going to assume that you have a goal. Boom. That's it. It's on the wall. Don't care what it is. The first part of the foundation is discipline. And there's portions inside the discipline that that you might think you have, but there's also things that people teach you. So this is my first thought about a foundation. And I'm going to give props out to my first coach. Okay. And that would be Coach Chet Holler. He was my coach over at junior high, Shea Middle School. And I met him first as my PE coach. I was 11 years old. I was 6 foot, having gone on a 5-inch growth spurt and a 3-inch shoe size spurt over the summer. I was big. And I was lucky enough to have him as my PE teacher and also as my first sports coach. He was the basketball coach. I tried out. Of course, I made the team. I made the team with a lot of other tall athletes. I'll be honest, something was in the water. There wasn't a single one of us other than the point guards that were under 5'10". We were a tall team. And I made the team, but I had never played basketball. I played it with my brother and friends. So Coach had a challenge for me. And the challenge first started with me on under the hoop. He basically just said, all you're going to do during practice is post, pivot, shoot. Post, pivot, shoot. And he goes, and every time I take a shot, if I miss it, I want you to grab it, post, pivot, shoot again. So he sent me over while everybody else was practicing and learning how to do stuff. I was sitting in the corner, not sitting, but standing in the corner, post, pivot, shoot, miss, rebound. Post, pivot, shoot, miss, rebound. Trust me, a lot of rebounds. I must have led the league in single-man offensive rebounds. But after the second practice, I don't remember when it was, he came over to me and he goes, hey, I'm going to give you something. And he gave me one of the jump ropes we had. And he goes, take this home. I want you to learn how to jump rope. Okay. So he goes, at the end of the week, show me what you can do. So took the jump rope home, went to do one jump, smacked my shins. Went to do a second jump, smacked my shins again. Kept trying to do it, falling on the floor. My mom would come over like, what's going on? And I'm jump roping in my bedroom. And she's like, take that outside. So I take it outside and realize you shouldn't jump rope on concrete if you're trying to learn. So I slowly got myself going with it. At first, I was taught by one of the girls that lived on the street. She taught me, okay, run over it like you're doing one, because I was trying to do 2 legs, 2 feet, like Rocky. And it was basically clump, 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 clump. And then I would, of course, hit my foot on the backside because, I wasn't moving it fast enough. But slowly I got to the point where I could do one over, then the other over. And I went over to show the coach, and I had 3 jumps, and then I fell flat on my face. He looked at me and goes, "That was ugly." Sorry about that. And then he said, "Keep going." Next week, I got like 4 or 5, but I was doing better. I finally got to the point where I could put both feet together. But the thing was, is he never praised me. What he did is he challenged me to see how I can do. And at that point, I don't know, I didn't know then that what I was learning was discipline. And even when I think back about it now, it was almost like OCD, but for me. I am, to this day, and starting then, was if I'm given a challenge, I want to be the best. And I will do things over and over and over again until I find out that, yes, I'm good at this. This discipline that I have is something I have carried over to adulthood. I also had it all the way through high school and college. You know, the discipline of being good, or discipline of being one of the top 1%ers, is just obsessive compulsive repeat. Just constantly repeating. And when you fail, just saying, okay, well, I failed. What did I do wrong? And move forward. Later on, I'll give you an example of how to do this, or how to think about this discipline that you need. But right now, you know, it was a discipline that I didn't know I had, but then I realized that if I put effort into it, I could be better. And, you know, that's the earliest I got to give it to Coach Holler. But I had another coach, and this is obscure. I mean, not obscure, but just a weird way. Okay, honestly, right now, if this was done this time in this generation, cops would have been called. But I was riding my bicycle through the neighborhood, and I was down over by Shadow Mountain, and there was this guy who was throwing the discus. A man, older man. And I came up and I go like this, "That's kind of cool. How do you do that?" And he goes, "Well, first you got to learn how to do this." So I came over and he told me how to just roll it on the ground. And he happened to have a junior high discus. I mean, honestly, you hear that? This guy is throwing discus, you know, older man, and he happens to have a junior high discus with him. Kind of, but turned out he was a cool guy. And he coached me on how to roll it. And then I said, "Oh, cool." And then I rode by the other day to see if he was there, and he was there again. And he goes, "Hey." And he had another one. And he said, "Here, you want to do this?" And he started teaching me a little bit at a time. Again, this was maybe, I was in 6th grade, but I was learning how to throw the discus. And, again, didn't recognize it at the time. I wish I remembered his name. But he had started teaching me the fundamentals of throwing discus. I already knew how to do a style that was called the South African throw, which is basically 2/3 of a full discus spin, when I was in junior high, before I hit junior high. So when I showed up to junior high, I was already breaking records. You know, the school records, and I think I finished 2nd in state that year for the junior high, which was pretty impressive. And the thing is that I learned, because I was really good at something, I learned that, man, if I just keep working at this, I can get better and better. And the two sports, you know, basketball, it's hard to see, you know, yourself getting better until you're in the game and you score. But the thing was, I was learning how to block. I was actually not even looking at the how many points I scored. I was looking at how my body is getting coordinated. And the same with discus. It wasn't about how far I was throwing. That was awesome, because I was winning every meet and I was shocking people. And, you know, I remember one time a coach got extremely upset. But it was, he got extremely upset, claiming that I wasn't in 7th grade, that the tape measure was broken, that there's no way I threw that mark, yada yada. It was just that discipline that it takes. Just keeping trying and doing things over again. And if you fail, just realizing, okay, what could I have done better? And that was my OCD. And that is the first thing of foundations is having the discipline to, regardless of what happens, just keep trying. All right, we're going to take a break. Enjoy the song. I don't know what it's going to be since I'm doing random. All right, I'll talk to you soon for step number 2.
I am the creator, and this is my house. And in my house, there is only house music. But I am not so selfish, because once you enter my house, it then becomes our house and our house music. And you see, no one man owns house, because house...
Hey everyone, wanted to jump in. This mix that you're listening to, this is a mix I created, I didn't even realize, 2-3 years ago. I'm going to have the TaoOfJoe Foundation's music, whatever we call it, soundtrack, the TaoOfJoe Foundation soundtrack. And this is a great mix. It has a lot of different music. I encourage you to go check it out. It's going to play in the background after this first bit, but it's a good 20 minutes of just solid music, some great tracks. So I'll get out of the way and let this play.
Jack is the one who gives you the key to the wiggly worm. Jack is the one who learns you how to walk your body. Jack is the one that can bring nations and nations of all jackals together under one house. You may be black, you may be white, you may be Jew or Gentile. It don't make a difference in our house. And this is fresh.
Daddy's flown across the ocean, leaving just a memory, a snapshot in the family album. Daddy, what else did you leave for me? What else did you leave for me? All in all, we're just another brick in the wall. All in all, we're just another brick in the wall. All in all, we're just another brick in the wall. Well, I don't need no arms around me. Well, I don't need no drugs to calm me. Well, I have seen the writing on the wall, and I don't need anything at all. Don't think I need it.
Hey guys, I'm back. I hope that song was good. I'll find out later. Okay, so here is, I don't know if these are pillars, I don't know if they're cornerstones, but here's the next thing that, for at least me, I think is important with having a foundation, and that is awareness. Awareness is one of those things I think that you have to accept it, and you have to be called out on this to be able to understand where you're at. You can. I don't think there's anybody in life that can sit there and just go through life and be like, I've always been aware. I've always been aware of everybody else. I think it's definitely part of the learned behavior. I think all of this stuff that we're going to talk about today is learned. I don't think you're born with it. I think it's always a struggle for us to maintain our awareness and our position. This goes back to me at junior high. Ron Smith, probably one of the best mental educators. I don't know if that's the right term, but one of the tutors I had in my life. He called me out one time in 7th grade. We were losing a match and a basketball game. We were losing. He was an assistant coach. And we lost, and I got pissed off and when leaving the court, I kicked a chair into a wall, and all of us were just total emo in the locker room. We were just totally emotional. We hadn't lost a game yet. We had been blowing everybody out, like I said earlier, I think. I mean, we were destroying teams. And the next day we came in for practice. We had 5:30 in the morning practice. Think about that. 5:30 in the morning. We had to be there at practice. We had to be waiting at the door to get in. And we were still bummed out and pissed off about the loss. And Coach pulled us aside and gave us not a pep talk, but a berating. And that was Chet Holler. And then after that, he looked at Coach Smith and said, "Hey, what do you have to say?" And Coach Smith went off on everybody.
Have a wonderful fest.
Not just like, oh, da-da-da. He called us out. He called me out. And he goes, "Oh, you think you're Mr. Big Tough, da-da-da. You kick a chair against the wall." And he's like, "Oh, but I'm Mr. Big and Tough. Nothing hurts me. Oh, I kick a chair against the wall." And he just mocked me. And he basically put me in my place, which any 12-year-old kid needs. But he was right. And he pulled me aside later and he said, "Listen, man, you're always going to be looked at as a leader. You're the biggest kid in this school." He goes, "You're going to always be the biggest guy in the room. You need to be aware of that." I will tell you one thing. I thank him every time I have a situation in my life, in work, play, whichever, that I can sit there and think about where am I at, and how aware I need to be with who I am. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect, and I had struggles, but here's the thing. Coach Smith was with me through junior high, through high school. I run into him afterwards, and gosh, talk about a great coach. So he, and I'm talking about what he did to me, but the thing is, this is an important foundation. The awareness is equal to that discipline. You have to be aware of what you are doing and how you are doing it. Okay? And I'm going to give you a little exercise here that, again, I learned. Again, this is not anything I created. This is just things that have happened to me that have helped me build a solid foundation. And this one comes from Bruce Snyder. We used to have every camp, we would have experts come in and talk to us about basically theology or philosophy about how to be people and how to be in society. Again, just like Coach Smith said, if you're one of the best athletes, or if, in my case, you're one of the biggest guys around, people are going to look to you and want to see what you're doing. And for us athletes that were in college, we were the 1%ers. We were the 1% of all athletes that ended up getting a scholarship. So these coaches were obligated or felt obligated that they should teach us how to be aware and how to be disciplined. So we would have these, I don't know, symposiums or whatever they were, about an hour every evening at camp during the 2 weeks that we were in spring and fall ball. And but one of them really stuck to me, and it was basically the archer. And an archer, the person that does archery, they are extremely disciplined in being aware. So if you look at an archer, if you're out there and you're in the field, you're paying attention to how is the wind. Is it blowing towards you, away to your back, sideways, right? And then also, what is the tension of the rod? You need to control your breath. Breathe out and control your heartbeat, so that way when you let go and this arrow flies 300 yards, that you're going to be able to hit the target that is only the width of the arrow. And the biggest thing that he taught us was this, is that if you look at the target, look at it like a clock. At 12 o'clock is when you release the arrow, and it will hit somewhere on the target. If it hits exactly bullseye, you don't jump around and celebrate and be like, good, I'm done. You still have more shots to do. And this is where the awareness comes in. This is where you need to sit back and you need to look at what you did. What was the conclusion? So you shot the arrow, boom. If you hit the bullseye, then the biggest, most important part, and this is the 6 o'clock. So at noon, you've done the action. 12 o'clock, you have the decision. Or sorry, noon, you hit the action. At 3 o'clock, you have the decision, but at 6 o'clock is where the most important thing is. Not the most important, but you need to be aware of what happened. Why did you hit the bullseye? Why didn't you hit the bullseye? Was it the wind? Was it because you weren't concentrating? Your heart rate was out? Something happened, a butterfly in the Amazon flapped its wing? What was it? And at that time, you need to assess what you did wrong. But the most important part is at 9 o'clock this is where your awareness needs to forget. You need to put behind whatever happened. Because at 12 o'clock, you have to go again. And think about this. Ron Smith taught me to be aware of where I'm at. And in that, he was meaning exactly what Coach Snyder was teaching me. And that was, you need to not just be aware, but understand the what happens with any decision that occurs. So what do? Do you sit there and forget about it and run back in, and in the next play, you're still thinking about it? You're still thinking about it, and you're pissed off that you missed a block, or you missed a shot, or you didn't get the mark you wanted, so you're still angry and you're beating yourself up? Or have you let it go? Because what's going to happen is the very next attempt that you go, you need to be in the right space. So if you're still thinking about the last event, you're not in the right space. And this is in work, it's the same exact thing. You need to, after you do something, and if it goes bad, if a meeting goes bad or it goes good, you need to step back and realize, okay, why did it go bad? What did I do that was wrong? What can I do that's better? Don't blame other people. Think about how you can do better. Okay? And this comes in sports, this comes in everything you do. Are you cooking? Did you screw up? Did you say, I'm never going to do this again because I wasn't good at it? Really? Really? That's a quitter right there. But if you sit there and just keep trying and trying and trying, and also be aware of why you failed, where you failed, you're going to succeed. And Now, in my life, I'll be honest, I've been unaware. But when it comes to push to shove, I've been extremely aware. As most of you know, I needed a bone marrow transplant 2 years after I finished playing football in college. And I did what everybody would do. I spent a lot of time dwelling in that area of why. Why me? Why me? Why me? And then I had this remembrance of, wait a minute, what was I taught? What was I taught? And I thought about the awareness portion, and I thought about the target and what the archer would do. And this is why after every play, after every event, after everything you do, there's always a break period. And I had this break period. I sat back and I looked at myself, right? I was 27 years old. I was diagnosed with a leukemia. I was entered into a clinical trial. I was given 30% chance. Oh my God. But what I did is I did the biggest thing, and that was this awareness portion of stepping back, recognizing where I was, recognizing, okay, what's going on? I have cancer. Boom. I need to take care of this. How am I going to take care of this? What I did is I broke it down. And I broke it down the best way I could, and that was through this awareness exercise that I'm going to share with you now. And I just call it simply the list. Take a sheet of paper. On the left-hand side, just fold it in half, long ways. On the left hand, I want you to write down every single issue that you have. Not problem, but issue. We all have problems, but we solve issues, right? Write them all down. And then on the other side, you flip it over, right side of the page, and you write down all the resources you have. And the resources are people, not just stick with people, or I don't want you to go to organizations. It's too broad. I want people. So on my list was God. Then I had written down all the doctors. I wrote down the owner and my bosses at work. I wrote down every single one of my friends. When I folded this open, I looked at my list and I said, okay, let me do a little connect the dots here. So obviously on my list on the left-hand side was death. So I connected that over to God. And I said, listen, if I'm going to die, that's your decision. And on my list, I had a lot of things. I had medicine, this, that. I was able to go through, tie those over to doctors, what to do here, what to do there. Then there was also these like emotional things. So I was able to tie them over to theologians, psychiatrists, friends, so forth. And that was my 6 o'clock. My noon was life. My 3 o'clock was, oh shit, I have cancer, and everything they're telling me is that I'm going to die. So at 6 o'clock, I analyzed everything, and I got down to this one thing, and it was donor. And I had that sent over to the National Marrow Donor Program. But I realized that, you know what? I can't just sit here and wait for them to do this. I have to find somebody, because I was told there's a 1,000,000 to 1 chance of me finding somebody, and the National Marrow Donor Program already did their search. So I had to cross NMD out, the National Marrow Donor Program. I had to cross them out on people that I could go to, because I already went there and the door was closed. And I just looked at this thing about donor. How am I going to find a donor? And that's when I realized that, you know what, my 9 o'clock, before I get to 12 o'clock, which is going to be the bone marrow transplant, I need to figure out a way to get a donor. And it took me a while to get there. I spent a lot of time at 6 o'clock. I spent a lot of time at 3 o'clock, between 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock. Why me, But it wasn't until I created this list and I figured out that, hey, you know what? That's the dividing line. That list tells me exactly what I needed to focus on. And at that time, when I decided that's what I was going to do, guess what happened? Doors open. All of a sudden, the list of people that could help me was increasing. Got a call from Coach Snyder. Got a call from my offensive line coach, Dan Cazzetto. Got calls from old teammates. I got a call from a friend of mine who I had just met. I had just met for a year. His name was JP Patchett. Those that know me know JP. Those that know JP know me. He became a really tight friend. One of my best friends. And I told him about my situation, about finding a donor, and he said, you know what, I want to help. I want to do a golf tournament. So he was going to do a golf tournament and help me raise some money. And then I told him, well, that's very nice, but this is where the problem is. And that's when we created this foundation to educate, recruit, and fund bone marrow testing. I don't want to go too much in depth about what that is, but I would not have been there if it wasn't for the awareness. The awareness that a lot of people have taught me. The list was my idea, but I don't know if it was really my idea. I may have heard about it before. I remember I created a list when I was deciding which college to go to, but I don't remember it having a who can help me. It was just a list about pros and cons of each school. But and that's where I was lucky. When I got to the 9 o'clock part, well, the 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, I was able to let all the stress go about if I'm going to die, if I'm going to, if my girlfriend is going to stay with me, if I'm going to, have kids, all this stuff. What's going to happen? How am I going to pay for my house, my car, my this, my that? All that stuff, I was like, you know what? I can't do anything with that. I have no control. Those are things I can't control. And I did all the right things I was supposed to, went to the bank, refinanced, did all that fun stuff. But the one thing that I can't fix that I have nobody for was the donor part. And that's when I decided, you know what, that's what I need to focus on. And that's when I focused on it, that's the awareness. I now knew what I needed to do. And that's where I was able to then use my OCD or my foundation that I had earlier of being disciplined. And when I found a challenge that I'm going after that. So we created Save Joe. It wasn't meant for Save This Joe. It was meant to save any Joe out there. I'm very happy to say that I think we've had over 12 members that have joined the National Marrow Donor Program during my drives. And we had about 13 that have donated their marrow. JP was one of them. My best friend from junior high and high school, Mike Nader, was one of them. What's the odds of that? Actually, Jeff Kaiser, my best friend from college, one of them. Imagine that. My three best friends have been donors. So, listen, this week I try to keep these under 30. I think we're going to end right now, and I think we're going to finish up Foundations next week. So I guess this is Foundations Part 1. Listen, everybody have a great week. I hope you enjoy this podcast, and